Hello and welcome to this episode of the Excalibur podcast. Today we have an absolute treat. We have Rick Lybarger here. For the last 3 decades, he has been a financial planner for numerous customers, helping them to ensure that they have the essentials for the future. But on top of that, he is also a father of 3, and for the last 6 years, he has been delving into and becoming a master in meditation and healing of people. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate it. Great to be here. Love the opportunity to sit down with you and talk. You're definitely a great inspiration in terms of what you bring, your journey, and I'm glad to be able to sit down with you today and just talk and share some wisdom about life and about the world and where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise, my brother. You are an inspiration to me, how far you've come and how far you have yet to go. And that's a great pitch to your company or your page, Wisdom One. You know, you spoke about wisdom there, and you bring a substantial amount of wisdom to people. I think the difference between knowledge and wisdom is very, very easy for me. Knowledge is something that you know but don't apply. Wisdom is the application of knowledge, and you do this phenomenally.
Well, thank you, and absolutely right. I mean, we spend our lives. I think it's interesting because we are so conditioned to learn to study material, memorize facts, and then we pass the class or we've taken the course, and once that's done, it's almost like it didn't exist. You know. Because we're on to that next thing. And when we are willing to take that information and apply it into our lives, as you said, that's where your wisdom comes.
Yeah.
And this journey that we're on, there's so much that doesn't make sense about life sometimes, maybe a lot of the time. We're all out there doing the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
And there's definitely better ways that we can live and show up for ourselves, for our families, for our coworkers, for our spouses, our children. Just taking the information that we've learned, using that wisdom, and then holding that light to share it for other people. It's a journey. You know, we're literally, it's a gift to be able to see somebody that's hurting, identify it, and then be able to help them to see that they can shift and that they can change.
Right. And you, one thing that I like that you always bring to the conversation is that you don't focus on the hurt. You rather focus on going into it, facing it, and then not going through something, but growing through it. And I think that is evident in every aspect of your life. Just how you've come through the crucible. You know that was a lot of pain, that was a lot of hurt that was experienced, and you came out the other side 10,000 times stronger. You've literally been electrified by the person that you've seen. And is that because of the fact that you were facing some demons during that ride, or was it just because it was something so difficult that forced you to take the next step? Because you were 200 pounds a couple of years ago, and now you are in phenomenal shape. You know, it's amazing to see this transformation.
Thank you. I mean, you know, I've always, in the back of my mind, knew that there was more out there. You know, from a young age, I listened to books on Tony Robbins, picked up books on talking about yoga or the chakras or working out, or and there's always this drive, or there was always this drive to want to improve who I was. You know, when we are stagnant, resting on our laurels, Coach Rafa always talks about this, you know, with the Men of War, is that we have to continue to evolve, because the world continues to evolve. Our situations in our lives continue to evolve, and if we stay stuck in certain things, it makes it hard. So, you know, the journey for me has not been by any stretch of the imagination a straight line.
Okay.
You know, there's been a lot of trial and error, been a lot of things that I have learned, didn't necessarily apply them, and then I realized later that I needed to apply them.
Okay.
Like I maybe would have thrown them out as not having value, and then when they keep coming back to you in different ways, now all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe I better pay attention to that.
Yes.
You know, like and a good example is we all go through traumas in life. We all have our challenges in life, whether, you know, it's your parents getting divorced or you getting divorced from, you know, your children's mom or children's dad, or whoever, you know, your partner, and these events shape you and they make you stronger if you choose to see the wisdom or the teachings that they bring.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like some of the biggest challenges, I think, come from learning to let go and stopping the identification of this happened to me, so therefore I can't do this, or that happened to me and I'm afraid to let it go because what will happen if I don't keep associating with this? It becomes part of an identity, and some of these identities are really hard to let go of because we associate and put so much weight in them. And, you know, as you go down the path of continuing to grow, those events, those traumas, those pieces of your life that you didn't like going through, they're all there to give you a lesson of some sort to help you grow. Because we don't grow if everything is easy.
Yes.
We grow when we have challenges and we work through those challenges.
100%. One saying that comes to my mind is from a mentor of mine, one of the very first mentors, Noah Essep. She says that a lesson is always going to be in your face until you learn to handle it with grace. And I find that you said it reappears, but it reappears in different forms. There are different levels to that though as well. As you progress in your level, now the challenge may appear the same, but it's at a different level as well. So it's kind of building you up to be able to face those challenges and help people from a different aspect of life, right?
Yeah.
I can kind of bring it into for me, it's always about weight training, because I think weight training is the ultimate description of life. You do something difficult and you grow from it. You do something difficult again and you grow from it. You seek out failure during that experience, and you can apply that lesson to any other aspect of your life. So by seeking out that failure, that's when you're going to truly find that grace, or not find the grace, but find that growth. But from your aspect, you didn't really seek out those things. It kind of just came out, right? Like you were going through maybe a little bit of a difficult time with work. Then all of a sudden, now you're going through it, and then 28 years later, or nearly 30 years later, you're an expert in it, and you can basically write a full-on epilogue on how to be a financial planner. So when that happens, when you're right in the thick of things, how do you differentiate yourself to be able to handle that and kind of master through? Because a lot of people will kind of give up at that stage.
It's a great question. You know, I've found I have found that over the past 6 years, that since I really started to dial in and wanting to make some serious changes in my life, that my routine every day to get my day going has been a important foundation. You know, Men of War would call it the warrior hour.
Yeah.
And that to me, I mean, everybody can have their own version of that, but it's definitely not picking up the phone first thing in the morning and seeing who won the game last night.
Right.
You know, it's not jumping back onto social media posts first thing in the morning to see how many people liked your picture or liked your whatever it was that you had to put on there, right? This journey that I've been on, as you go down to things like the Modern Mystery School, or I've studied in the Modern Mystery School for 6 years, and there it's all ancient teachings, lineage of King Solomon, and studying everything from Kabbalah to energy healing with Reiki, with doing life activations, full spirit activations. There are aspects to our lives that we need to embrace, if you will, to allow them to help us heal. Okay. Meaning, for me, as a kid, you know, my life was pretty good. I had everything rolling in a good way, and my parents got divorced. And, you know, I'm probably 12 years old at that time. And right around the same time, my dad went to jail. And so now you're feeling really, really lost, and you're trying to find a connection to somebody or something because you're trying to escape from what's happening, and you don't really want to be in that situation. In the process of that, I ended up being sexually abused, and by somebody that was a predator. They saw a weakness in me, and then they attacked it. And so my life at that point was hell. You know, there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of confusion. I didn't really know what to do or where to go. And so I started to disassociate all those events and just bury them deep down inside.
Right.
Like nothing, I'm going to not let anything affect me, and I'm just going to keep moving forward. And what was interesting about it all is that I actually turned to drinking like at 14. You know, it's crazy, but it's there.
Yeah.
And so that journey never really was very satisfying. You know, I was a successful athlete. You know, ran track, do triathlons. You know, climbing mountains, doing all kinds of things like to challenge myself physically, you know, working out. But underneath all of those things, there was this white elephant. You know, there was this piece that I was afraid to face that I would use as an excuse not to rise higher, or I used it as an excuse to not step into new roles or new challenges. And whether it was being a father, whether it was being, you know, taking my business to another level, whether it was being a better husband, whether it was being a better, you know, athlete, whatever it was, because I wasn't able to let go and really look at myself, I was still very shallow inside. You know, you peel back 2 or 3 layers, and underneath those layers there's a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and, you know, you become a master of disguise. You become a master of kind of molding yourself into the situation that you're in, and then really never really being true and authentic to yourself.
Right.
And the journey of going into healing, I spent a lot of time in therapy later in life. Well, I mean, in my mid 20s and early 30s, I was in therapy all the time, and therapy is, you know, is helpful, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily give you the tools to have the breakthroughs that I was looking for. So, you know, I didn't really understand the importance of morning routines. I didn't really understand the importance of letting go. I didn't really understand the importance of just allowing myself to be and allow myself to make some mistakes. I was really, really, really hard on myself.
Okay.
And drank heavily during those time periods. Like not necessarily during the weeks, but the weekend comes and, you know, grab the 6-pack of your favorite IPA with 8% alcohol in it. And, you know, if you can polish off all 4 or all 6 or whatever you got, by the end of that, you're buzzing pretty high and you're feeling pretty good. And the world is now numb.
Right.
Right. Then you wake up feeling like shit the next day and that's Band-Aid. It doesn't really resolve the issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized along the journey that there was a lot of fear about looking at myself in a different way, because I wanted to identify as a victim. And that identity that I had created was something that basically at the end of the day, held me back.
Okay.
And as we journey in our lives, like it's easy to continue to ignore these things that have happened to us, and everybody's got them. You know, my traumas are my traumas, but your traumas are your traumas. Right. And you know, everybody's got them, and you rate those traumas because it's the only thing you know. So, you know, if you put 10 people in a room and they're all going to have a different situation, and somebody be ultimately like, well, that was the worst of all. But it's not about comparing what was worse. It's like how you deal with what's been put in your lap is how you grow.
Yeah.
And so I started to do a couple things in my life that really started to change things. So Hermetic teachings and going to the Modern Mystery School, which I started back in 2017, 2018, they would teach you that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes.
And that really started to resonate with me. And I wanted to explore what that meant at a deeper level. Like, what does that mean? Well, we have a body, we have a mind, and we have a soul, right? And talks about it in the Bible all the time. That always left me with a lot of curiosity around what that meant. And as I started to learn deeper Hermetic teachings, I started to understand that we are not the things that happen to us. And when we learn to let go and we learn to begin to look at ourselves differently, and we start to follow our own compass as opposed to this outside validation, the path starts to become clearer and clearer and clearer as to how you're going to heal.
Okay.
And the biggest piece of it all too is just learning to let go. Meaning if you have a cup, and in that cup you have 10 rocks, and all 10 rocks are anger, frustration, judgment, self-sabotage, and maybe there's a little stone in there for love or joy or happiness. Like those 3 elements right there are the most important things that you can have in life.
Right.
But if you don't put value to those or gratitude, and you live in the feelings and emotions of these darker pieces of ourselves, it holds you back.
Okay.
And I felt justified for a really long time holding on to them.
Right.
Because it was how I identified myself. And as I learned through getting different healings done or different classes and learned how powerful we are as humans. I mean, the Bible says that we were created in the image of God.
Precisely.
And that's a pretty deep concept. And when you start to unpack that and you start to look at yourself as a divine being or an energetic being or as an image of God, for me, it started to make me look at the world very differently. And I started to go back in time and look at things like Kabbalah. Started to learn about breathwork, started to learn about meditation, started to work on energy healings. And as you go down that process, it starts to allow you to let go of things. Like a balloon, a hot air balloon. If it's on the ground and it's got 10 heavy bags on it, it's not going to lift.
Yeah.
But as you start to let things go and you start to drop those bags, now all of a sudden you get liftoff.
Right.
And so, you know, in the process of all this, it's our journey is our journey, and it's like we have to decide almost as much as we want to breathe what you want your journey to look like.
Look like, feel like,
sound like, feel like, sound like, and in the process of that, I found that, you know, you're going to have to make changes to or people that you're with. You know, if you're around negative people who are full of judgment and narcissism and always talking negatively or not seeing positive things, and that's the type of people you surround yourself with, then you're going to therefore be like them.
Right.
You know, but as you start to get around positive people that have, and you see other people that have healed their traumas, drug addictions, you know, abuse, you know, divorces, whatever it was, their own time in jail, whatever it was, and these people are driven, becomes inspiring, because now you can see all these people that have been able to shift, and if they can do it,
why can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a guy that I like to quote. His name is Roger Bannister. He was the first person to ever break the 4-minute mile, and since he's done it, you know how many people have done the actual 4-minute mile?
Over 100.
Yeah, 100%. And even high school students have done it. So from that perspective, if you step onto the only thing that changed was them stepping onto that, knowing that it is humanly possible to do it. And by you not only sharing your story, but also doing what you're doing, not only are you helping people, you are showing them what it is possible to do. So like you said, whenever we have a discussion, you are a light worker and you're opening up that light for people and you're holding that light, right? But with that comes the responsibility that you also have to fill your own light up. And you have to say no to certain things as well, which is the one thing that we have had quite a few discussions on. It's very difficult for us to do that because we want to help people. You have the most amazing gift and you share it so freely with people. But that, like you were telling me downstairs, sometimes that is actually at a disadvantage to us because people don't see value in it. If you look at our bodies, we get these bodies for free. But when there's something wrong with your kidney, how much does it cost? $160,000 for a new kidney. When there's something wrong with your liver, it's priceless, right? These things are priceless, but we got them for free and we do not show it the same value that it should be. So how do you step back from that? Because you've reframed a lot of what you've been doing over the past couple of years. I've noticed that you are starting to hold on to the energy and rather only give it to those people that are, one, in need of it, and two, that are actually going to find value in it. So what was shifted? How have you shifted that mindset?
So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? And so that was, so I lived a world of insanity for so many years, and I wasn't getting the changes that I wanted. And so as I took a step back from that and started to learn to forgive myself, my anger towards myself and the anger that I had towards other people because I wasn't getting what I wanted from somebody else slowly started to dissipate. And something that always resonates with me is that we cannot make a change for ourselves from the same place that it was created. And in this process of understanding that at a deeper level, what I realized is that I was way too much in my head. Like trying to resolve things that maybe there wasn't a resolution for them. Maybe it was just, okay, it's just time to let go. You know, what was the lesson there? And then how do we move forward from that? And I'm telling you, that sounds, I say it like that, but it was not without its challenges. Right? It's But
It's simple, but it's not easy.
The concepts are simple, but right. But what it means is like, you know, I always like to share the story about, you know, Luke Skywalker with Yoda in I guess The Empire Strikes Back, when Yoda says, you need to go into this cave and you're going to go face your fears. And he goes in and faces Darth Vader. And, you know, before he goes in, he's like, I'm not afraid. And Yoda's like, you will be afraid. Like our darkest fears are the things that we need to lean into. But what's the beautiful part of it all is that because it's us and or you or me, when we learn to lean into our darkness and make peace with it, suddenly we come through to the other side and we see light. It's like Shawshank Redemption, you know, he escapes the prison and he crawls through a sewer, right?
Yes.
Like a, you know, however long that tunnel was, but it was a sewer tunnel. And, and you know, he didn't quit.
Right.
And he just kept going and going and going. And finally he gets out to the other side and now there's freedom. And so we have to decide that we want to change. And then in the process of that change, it's always a huge benefit to find other people that have been on their own journeys of change as mentors or coaches to help you along the way, because not everybody's going to get your journey,
right,
or give a crap about it, right? And that could be your own family.
Yeah.
You know, it could be your spouse. It could be, and so there's an aspect that of the journey that you have to learn to rely on yourself.
Yes.
You know, and go within. I think it's always interesting to hear the phrase, you cannot give what you do not have. So if I don't have $100, I can't give you $100.
Right.
If I don't have, you know, food, I can't give you food. If I don't have love for myself, I can't give that to you. And, you know, I think there's lots of men in the world that will show their love for their families by financially supporting them, which is a huge, huge thing, but to a fault.
Right.
If you work 70 hours a week and now you have no time to be with your family, and your way of showing them that you love them is through the financial support that you give them, that's love, but it's not the love that your kids are necessarily looking for.
Can I take that point and kind of not debate, but kind of change it up a little bit?
Of course.
I think it's energy exchange more than love, right? In that regard, he's just exchanging his energy for them.
Right.
Love is presence. Like we discussed today, you have to be fully present. And you said it from a very great standpoint, is that when you drop into your heart and you're fully present and you open up from that aspect, from that chakra, you're spreading true presence, but also you're seeing the person the same way that they're seeing you. And you're spreading that love from an overflow rather than from a lack of. And that means so much more than going, here's $100, go and get yourself something nice. Your children, I can guarantee you, because I've been through the experience, your children are not going to remember the financial gain that you give them. They're going to remember the conversations that you spent,
the present moment with them,
Precisely.
tuning into what they're saying.
Yes.
And you know, I agree with you. And I mean, that's the energy exchange. That's the present moment. And you know, as somebody that's been a financial planner for almost 30 years now, you know, I have developed an ability to work really, really hard, work nonstop, constantly moving.
Yeah,
Any sales position,
70 hours a week or more, right? Back in the day.
And so that is, at times can be hard to be fully present with that.
Right.
And so taking the time to take care of yourself in the mornings, you create the warrior hour and create your routines in the morning that help you, like, is a good foundation for the day. So I think that it's like great to be able to give yourself that time and that love in the morning. And I think that has made a tremendous difference in my life. The other thing that I think is interesting too about all this is the piece, just to kind of go back to this self-love piece for a minute. As I started this journey about 6 years ago, I wanted to, one of the thoughts in that process was to create a coaching program to help people. And a couple of things that started to pop into my mind were, okay, what are 3 things that I need to look at about myself? And how can I start that assessment? Because loving yourself and having that connection with yourself is a core piece of a foundation.
Yeah.
And so I asked myself, do I love myself? And I was like, well, I don't know. I never really thought about it. But if you don't love yourself, I mean, there's only one you. You're everybody else is taken in the world. You have this gift to create this masterpiece, which is you, but you have to be willing to embrace it. And it doesn't always mean following a herd, right? It doesn't mean that just because all these people are doing it means that you should be doing it too.
Yeah.
There are teachings that have been shared for thousands of years, and those teachings taught man how to do this. And then at one point, those teachings kind of disappeared, and they got replaced with other things.
Yeah.
And that's the piece called his story.
Right.
Who is telling the story, and what narrative is being shared? And our schools today are very good at teaching you facts to memorize to get a good grade, and then you get an A in the class. And as we were saying earlier, at that A in that class, and then what happens next? Well, I don't know. I don't remember any of that stuff. Right. And because you've learned to dial into a system and get gold stars or A's because of the reward factor in it. And so now, are you really pleasing yourself, or are you really pleasing somebody else?
Right.
And so in this journey of becoming more embodied, more empowered, discovering and using knowledge to create wisdom, you begin to peel back layers of an onion, if you will, or layers of a package that is the package of you. And I think there's a couple tools that definitely people need to balance out, because you can be, you're incredibly well fit. Nutrition is a huge piece to you. Spiritually, you're very balanced. So you have a very good balance in your life. And as we go through our journeys in life, we have to remember not to get stuck in one area.
Yes, sir.
Because it's easy to just go to the gym and you get your adrenaline pumped, you get your
self-medication is what they call it.
Self-medication.
And there's different forms, but that's for me, for some people as well, it's been a form of self-medication. It's a form to escape from the world for about a half an hour.
Right.
But then when you start to do what you said, is create that ritual. And this is what I'm doing as now, intentionally, as self-love, things become slightly different.
Right.
And that's when the shift starts to happen. I'm not going to the gym for anyone else except for, this is my time to feel amazing and to reward my body for navigating through the world. Because like you said, your body is, you're a spirit having a human experience.
Right.
And how do you have that human experience? What's the vehicle that takes you around? It's your body.
Yes.
So why not make that the most everybody upgrades their phone every year.
Right. Yeah, great point.
I'm going to upgrade my body every single day, because at the end of the day, this is the only vehicle that I have. And that's when the shift started happening. And that's when I started to lose all this weight, because I was working out all the time. Oh, I need to get that six pack, that on the vision board behind you. I need to get that body. Blah, blah, blah. Did it consistently, showed up with the diets, and there was the plateau. And then I started self-sabotaging myself. Then the plateau, sabotage. Sabotage. Just the insanity cycle. And then what really shifted was, I'm not doing this for nothing else except for, this is my time to show myself that I love myself.
Yep. And it's so important, right? It is so important. And the balance is important because you lift, but you also have to eat right.
Yeah.
Because, if you're not eating right, your body's not going to grow the way that it should while you're lifting. Obviously sleep's important. Getting out of nature is also important.
Yeah.
Grounding,
mobility, meditation. Your meditation, just not just meditation, but breath work your breath work literally transports people to a different realm. Like, I remember there was one session that you had, I think it was pretty recently. I think you guys were trying to get hold of me or something, but I was not even in the same realm anymore. I was literally gone. And I came back, I'm like, where's everybody? It was about 2 hours later.
I remember that. Yeah, that was, well, so to that point, like, we tend to, the reason that breath work I think is so important, and it can lead into so many other ways of healing, is that when you start to learn to do conscious connected breathing is the session. Yeah. And when you dive into conscious connected breathing and you spend that hour and 15 minutes, you're literally breathing into your body and your prefrontal cortex shuts down by 40%. So you're getting out of your thinking mind, this mind that's full of the judgment, the hate, the anger, whatever it is, the obsession about your favorite football team or whatever's going on, like that looping just drops away. Now you're dropping into your body, and now you have this moment where you're now just you and your breath. And at the end of the session, as you come back.
If you come back.
Well, we have naturally occurring DMT in our lungs. So when you're breathing like that, you're actually making yourself high off of your own energy and your own supply. High off your own supply. Yeah. Greatest high we can have. Yeah. And that's something that anybody can do at any time.
Yes. And it's better to do it with a professional like yourself, because you actually put soundtracks behind it, which alters the frequency of the brain. I don't know if that's intentional that you do that, but it definitely alters my frequency of my brain and allows me to shut down to such an extent that I'm not thinking about anything else. And the breath holds that you do during that time, you normally tell us to come back, but I go for extra time, and I'm like, I've never been able to hold my breath for 3, 4, 5 minutes before. And during this experience, I'm actually able to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's more of what you're doing to clear out the mind. Breath holding, conscious connected breathing. These are all, I think, good. Something you can use throughout your entire life, but I think they're a good starting point to just clear some stuff.
Right.
Like I've done over 150 breath sessions with people, and what's interesting is that men cry in those almost
all the time. Yeah, I did.
And it's because we're releasing emotions. Like, we as men hold everything inside. Yeah. Because we don't know how to process it, or we don't know how to share it with people. We don't know how to express
it. That's what we taught from an early age. Go. There's no time to process that. There's no time for that. You've got to be the man and forge through. But when you're able to step, like you said, drop out of that conscious mind and get into the heart space, it's a completely different emotion, but also it's a completely different person that you are.
Yes.
You're not the same person that you were when you're just in the ego mind, like you keep reiterating to us. It's a completely different experience.
Yes.
But why do people stay in that state? Is it because it's that they're used to it?
I mean,
stay in the ego state.
Stay, because it's our safe operating space. Because we like to control everything. We like to control our environment, and this is a part of the journey, is learning to let go of what's outside of us. I mean, it's the serenity prayer. God grant me the ability to see the things that I cannot change, and know the difference. I'm not saying it correctly, but
it's the things that kind of change.
But that serenity prayer has a lot of truth, because we really can't control anything other than us.
Exactly.
We can't, and we try to dominate other people, and it makes us feel better, or we try to tell everybody what they should do, and maybe it makes us feel better, and sometimes it's not sometimes, a lot of the times that's met with resistance. So when we are being able to be more present with ourselves and work on ourselves, now it allows us to expand into a new capacity of responding to the world as opposed to reacting to the world. I think that we're in a very interesting time right now on the planet, right? The energies, we've got drama with politics, we've got wars, which we always seem to have wars, but we also have, the talks of tariffs, and we have so much on the news, and it is a world full of energies that are around fear.
Right.
And it's easy to just stare at the TV all day long or stare at your phone all day long in this complete distraction mode. And I think that a big message to share with people is that you need to create some more tools in your life. If you're not happy and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall every day, the definition of insanity is repeating in your life every day. You need to create some new tools to help guide you on your path.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to get worse if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
The way that our media presents the world to us is there's not a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's
good news never makes the news, right?
Right.
You never hear about, these family were saved by this policeman. No, this policeman shot these guys,
right.
or these guys were. And that's interesting because our nature as humans is to want to view the bad stuff for some reason. It's both. It's two-sided.
Yes.
Right? That's why the yin and the yang. Because you can't truly acknowledge the good without the bad. However, if you focus on the good, you're more than likely able to push the bad away. It's like when I talk to people about a diet. I'm like, don't have a diet. Why? Because you feel like you're going to be neglecting yourself or removing something from your food supply.
Ice cream,
yeah, exactly.
Cookie,
right?
Some bread.
You're leaving this massive hole.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, okay. So if you want to eat that, you have to eat this steak and those eggs and that avocado first. By the time they finish that, they're like, okay, I'm only going to have a small piece of bread. They'd be eating it just for the taste.
Yes.
And then that slowly starts to push away everything else that they don't really need in their life. And that's the whole process of habit formation or habit change. Don't take a habit and go, you know what, New Year's resolution, I'm going to stop smoking and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to stop drinking. Why? Because it leaves a hole, right? You say you're stopping that stuff and you leave a hole. Okay, if you want to stop smoking, what are you going to put in place of that? Are you going to have a piece of gum in your mouth all the time? Or are you going to do 10 push-ups every time you think about smoking? If you're going to go out drinking or go out with friends and there's going to be alcohol around, what are you going to have in place of that?
Yes.
I'm going to have a club soda with a lime on. Boom. Now you've changed that perspective and you've put something in place there that's going to support you.
Yes.
And that mechanism.
Yes.
But the same thing happens with other parts of people's lives, is that they look at from the perspective of, this has happened or this is not happening. How do I change it?
Yes, totally. And it's a great point to talk about replacing it. Like for me, one of the ways that I removed myself from the world, one of the multiple ways, I mentioned drinking earlier, but I used to chew tobacco.
Okay.
Like I literally chewed tobacco, Skoal, Kodiak, Copenhagen for years and years and years, from probably 18, 19 years old until, I was in my mid 40s. And it was just a habit.
Yes.
And it was a habit that gave me a buzz that I needed. And it gave me this sense of where I could focus something. And it just I felt like it was calming my nervous system, but it was like actually hurting my system. Like I would be waking up in the middle of the night with cold sweats because my body wasn't processing all the tobacco and, drinking a lot. And as I started to go down the path of spiritual healing, I got what was called a life activation.
Yes.
Which
phenomenal experience. If you guys have not had it, I highly suggest it.
It's an energy healing, amazing. It actually rebalances your whole system, and actually grounds you, and helps you find your sense of purpose. It opens your mind back up. It's bringing light into the body.
Okay, so just on that point, after I did a life activation with Rick in 2023, the end of
Yes.
2023, Excalibur was formed the very next month. So
it brings creativity, and
no, you said it helped me to find my purpose.
Yes.
I literally
There
found
you
my
go.
purpose. My purpose was to impact 100,000 men's lives before the age of 40. Boom.
And that's a tool that we have access to. I mean, that's a thing that if your listeners, DM you, I can get my contact information. But
we're gonna give you all of his contact information in this podcast, and at the end of the podcast, I want you to tell all the listeners where they can find you. By the way,
absolutely, and there are life activation practitioners all over the U.S., in Brazil.
But fly him out. He's phenomenal. Stick with Rick.
I appreciate it. But life activation, that's an energy healing.
Yes.
And in the process of energy healing, I also had a energy healing called Spiritual Detox.
Okay.
And it was about a 12-week program, and it actually took me through the steps. And by the end of those steps, I was actually able to quit drinking. I haven't had a drop in 3 years, and it doesn't even cross my mind as something that I want or need. And I don't want to say I cut it cold turkey, because I had these healings to do it, but energy healings like that can help you release these things that we've latched onto, that are kind of you're
draining yourself.
It's that safety bar, it's the training wheels, or whatever it is. It's like these little things that we have that make us feel safe. And excuse me.
No worries.
What's happening?
That's the chocolate.
That's a great protein shake. Yes, phenomenal. My lunch was awesome, and so in the process of that, like, energy healing is you shifting energy in the body, and that energy being stuck. With the breath work, when you're breathing, and all of a sudden you're opening up something, an emotion that you've locked in there, and now it's free. Well, energy healing builds on that and keeps expanding that consciousness and expanding your light. Talking about this whole self-love thing and dropping into the heart. One tool that I would encourage people to look at, not only with breathwork and starting to learn how to meditate, and is there's a company called HeartMath based out of California, and they've done 24 years of study on the benefits of brain-heart coherence. I wear an aura ring. This gauges your brain-heart coherence. And brain-heart coherence is important because it lowers your blood pressure, it reduces your stress, it reduces your anxiety, it improves your digestion, it helps you to become more present. And I have really ramped up my use of the HeartMath tool.
Okay.
And in the past 6 weeks, and now I am noticing a incredible shift out of the trying to be in my thinking mind and processing it all from here to dropping into my heart more, and now using this as the kind of the engine and to run the supercomputer that we have up here.
Right.
And so that coherence has expanded my sense of awareness. It's allowed me to be more present with everyone in my life. And as I've learned to let go and trust more in my own energy, you learn to fall in love with your energy. And, I think that we get a big trap that I see people get into is they like to compare themselves to others.
Right.
And when you're comparing yourself to others, you're basically saying you're not worthy yourself, and you need somebody else to, and it doesn't mean that people can't mentor you. It doesn't mean that you can't be inspired by other people. But as soon as you start comparing somebody to somebody else, or yourself to somebody else, now you're devaluing yourself.
Yes.
And we're all on our journeys, and we're all starting at different paths. And I would say that no matter where you are in the journey, you have the ability to recreate yourself. I mean, you had an incredible transformation. I love seeing the pictures of you where you were overweight. Not that I like seeing you overweight, but you're completely different energetically, and the way that you held yourself, the way that you were, it was a completely different energy. I have similar pictures that I could share, that same thing. And it's like, as you consciously start to change and start to give yourself that love, and I say it as love, but it's like expression of, I want to work out more. I want to be stronger. I want to be calmer. I want to own my own business. I want to, be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be whatever it is, whatever you're aspiring to be. Those things will become, you'll magnetically attract them into your life as you start to let go of your own shit,
right?
And allow yourself to be forgiven, forgiving yourself, and then taking those steps to heal. It takes courage, right? When I dealt with abuse that I mentioned earlier, but I couldn't even speak the word that I was abused, even to a therapist, when I was 25, 26 years old, sitting in therapy, because it was like so much shame around that I couldn't even mumble the words.
Right.
And I heard an interview with a woman on TV, Robin Quivers from the Howard Stern Show. Just a funny reference. I don't really listen to Howard Stern anymore, but at the time I was listening to her, and she was like laughing about the fact that she had come through all this. And I said to myself, you know what? If I can get to a point where I can reframe it and speak upon it and share it, then in a way that it doesn't affect me anymore, and there's not shame around it,
has no power over
that's the healing. It has no power. So anybody can do that. Anyone can do that. It just takes a little courage.
And I think another thing that came to my mind when you were talking about the healing and the breathing is something you were speaking about initially, is that we are 90% water.
Yes.
And water holds memory.
Yes.
But when you're breathing into those areas, what you're breathing in, you're breathing oxygen in.
Yes.
That oxygenates the blood, but it also changes out those water molecules. So now you're removing that energy, that water molecules that had that memory.
Yes.
And replacing them with brand new ones. So scientifically,
yes,
this is actually proven to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to that point, as you're breathing in, conscious connected breathing, you're expanding your cellular structure. And so that old DNA cellular structure, that breath that's flowing through your body and expanding everything, is now releasing things. It's almost like you're forcing it out, detoxifying it from your system, and that energy is now being released.
But you see, most people just think we're talking about woohoo woohoo, but this is actually scientifically based.
Heart math can show all kinds of data behind all this, and absolutely. So it's not, and if you can breathe, you can heal. That's what I like to say. If you breathe, you can heal, and everybody can breathe.
Right.
And I think that the healing begins when you start to put some aspirations around who you want to be. Because you want to be more than where you're at now. You're stuck. Definition of insanity, going back to that for a minute. And I would guarantee you that definition of insanity, you're not happy with the image of who you are.
Right. And
you could be this great, put up masks and hide it from the world. But when you go home and look in the mirror, are you really happy? You know? And so that is a journey that they talk about, the dark night of the soul, and written in all kinds of spiritual books and taught in teachings about going through the muck and getting stuck in the muck. And in the midst of that, it's like the phoenix rising, right? We burn and then we rise up out of our ashes. So metaphorically speaking, it's a very powerful experience to go through. But as you you burn all that away, and now you rebirth. You now have this opportunity to create this whole new life.
Agreed.
I think Men of War Society has been an incredible support system for all of that. I mean, because it's allowed me, and I know you too, to surround ourselves with people that are very like-minded with each other, support each other. Driven. You know, they got your back.
Yep.
Everyone, including myself, my family, my brothers. I mean, yep. you know, that's very real. And surrounding myself with good men that I know are not in a judgment of me, like with all those traumas that I was explaining to you, that created a lot of fear and anxiety about what other people would think of me. So I kind of metamorphed into a way of like not being fully authentic in many ways, because it was like my comfort zone to not show a deeper side of me, because I didn't know how to express it, because I was afraid of what people would think of me. It was just a bullshit, you know, thought in my mind, a bullshit creation. But, you know, as I started to settle into being around men that actually supported each other and wanted to see each other succeed and pat you on the back, and, you know, that space and that trust in other men started to expand tremendously. Right. And you know, I would encourage anybody that's out there wanting to be on a healing journey, you know, there's a tribe out there. Excalibur is a great tribe. There's so many good people in that. Men of War is an incredible tribe. Modern Mystery School is an incredible tribe. There are these opportunities for us to find these groups of people. Yeah. And they may not be in your hometown, but Zoom has made them more accessible. Exactly. You know, and it is never too late to change. Just as a reference point, I was talking about my parents and their divorce. In the process of that, my dad went to jail. He disappeared from my life for about 7 years. So there was a period of time when I was like really, really angry. And why me? And why did I have a dad that was in jail? And, you know, seeing him in his orange jumpsuit and just all those experiences. And he was very shamed and went of all that. And then he disappeared. And it broke my heart and really left me in a very angry place, not only towards him, but towards all the other things that ultimately fell into place after that. And in the process of that journey, what I started to understand was that our greatest challenges become our greatest liberators, and our greatest and our deepest roots are created by these challenges. And as we learn to root into these things and not allow them to hold us back, but to make us stronger, then the tree that grows from that, those deep roots of those different traumas, now becomes our greatest strength. Right. And I think we got to be able to forgive ourselves a little bit. You know, we can be our own worst critics. We are super hard on ourselves. We're probably harder on ourselves than our enemies are. Yeah. And maybe enemy is not the fairest word for that, but we are our own worst critics. Yeah. And I think that it's so important for us to take a step back from that and give ourselves a break, forgive ourselves, allow ourselves to do some healing, like pick up some books. Joe Dispenza has a great book. Dan Burley has the book Just Breathe, another great book. You know, there are...
Rick Lybarger is going to have a great book when he decides to write it.
There's a lot of lessons, man. There's a lot of lessons for sure. And I think, man, I get so passionate about all this because there's so many people that are hurting, right? Yeah. And they're afraid to step forward into this, and they don't understand that it's a matter of expanding their trust in themselves, but then also kind of dropping some of the walls that they've built up around them. And we don't have to live in fight or flight every day. We don't have to live in that
escapism
mode.
Either.
Right.
So it's fight or flight or escapism are the two things that I see men truly living in today. And it's very sad, because if those men had to face their fears, as you say, go through the cave, like in the story of Luke Skywalker and Master Yoda, and really face what they are afraid of, on the other side of that is everything that they could truly ever want in life. And not only is everything they want, but also the people that they depend on. Because the main thing that I find in today's age is that men's lack of discipline is a direct insult to all of those people that believe in them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, discipline is so important, like, because it allows you to create a mindset that is like iron, right? When you have the discipline to wake up in the morning when you don't want to wake up, when you have the discipline to eat certain foods when you rather eat this food, but creating discipline is a helpful foundation in the process. I think that too, it's important to say that there's balance to everything.
Yeah.
When
I want to eat that cheesecake, I'll eat that cheesecake, right? There's no, to me, there's no on and off, but rather, this is what I do 99% of the time, and then there's a 1% or the 3% or 5%, but I'll go, you know what, I'm okay with that.
Right. Cheesecake every day isn't going to cut it.
No. I did a study with that, though. I did a cheesecake every day for 30 days, and I saw what it did to my body. I've got it on Instagram. I picked up, I think it was like 10 pounds, but literally you can see I've got love handles, and I went from that back to ripped within a couple of days.
Yeah. Well, you're a master of the nutrition and working with that to help your body become its most functioning, right? And that functioning, when you're fully functioning, you're actually clearer in mind too, right? I mean, to talk about food for a minute, I mean, our system of what we know about the American diet is literally stacked against us.
Do you know what the acronym for the American diet is?
I don't know.
It's called the Standard American Diet. SAD. Sad.
I did not know. That's good. but all those, everything that's put into the food, it's we assume that a Cheerio is like because we grew up with them, that they're really good, and yet the ingredients in Cheerios are some of the worst ingredients that you could possibly put into your body, let alone give a child. Right? We look at McDonald's versus grass-fed beef,
beef tallow versus seed oils, seed oils are so healthy for you. Margarine is so good for your heart. Like, the companies that are spraying those propaganda is actually benefiting from you going on their statins and their heart medicines and all the rest of it. If you just did exactly the opposite of what mainstream media and the doctors told you, you'd be extremely healthy. Doctors told us to take the COVID vaccine. I didn't take that vaccine.
I didn't take it either.
I've been 100% healthy all that time. Oh, it's for the best people in your family. Now what's happening with these studies? The studies are showing us that it's actually been exceptionally bad for people.
Yes.
Clogging up their arteries and their blood, creating clots.
Yes.
So do the opposite of whatever you're told from the doctors, then you'll be fine.
Well, what's interesting is, if it's so good, why does it need to be
7 shots?
why is it required?
Yeah.
Why are we made to do something? If it's so good for us, we'll naturally be attracted to it. And I think this is a piece to our society that we need to be really careful of, no matter what we're doing. And
sheeple versus people, man, that's the thing.
Sheeple versus people. It's a great way. It's a great way to say it, and I totally agree. I think that the way that we choose to show up for ourselves is really where the journey begins. And I think that we need to want to change, to heal, as much as we want to breathe. Like if you run out of oxygen and you know, you're under the water and you're drowning, you like suddenly get into this fierce mode to get back up to the surface. It's like, you know, the third monkey trying to get on the Noah's Ark, right?
Yep.
You got to fight like a crazy man to get on the Ark, right? So
we've been in that experience as well. We know what that feels like.
Exactly, right? But that kind of that power that we have within inside, it's within all of us.
Yes.
And I think that it's easy at times to let it lie dormant. And then sadly, what happened for me is I was always like pleasing people, always trying to do the right thing, always wanting to be kind. And instead of, here's where I'm at, no is okay to say no. You know, we don't always have to say yes.
Right.
But learning to be embodied in who we are as men is critically important in the process of all this, because our society is stacked against the deck against us.
Yeah.
And it's designed to weaken us, and it's
men.
easier to the herd. They're trying to pull us in this direction of a herd that is not really going to make us feel any better about ourselves in the end, right? Not that we were not that. I mean, I think we have a very good foundation being men of war and following these paths and our journeys and our, you know, having our goals and aspirations. But somebody that doesn't have those things and is looking for them, they're there. It's just a matter of you giving yourself some worth to say, I deserve more in my life.
Right.
Because we can get whatever we want once we decide what it is that we want. We can attract it like a magnet.
Precisely. And another thing with that is that we have to accept that as men, you are going to suffer in life. Alexis Carrel said that man needs suffering to be remade, for he is both the sculptor and the sculpture. The David that you're creating is you. And you can't do that if you don't go through hardship and hard times, right? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And the cycle just keeps on repeating itself.
Yep. That's, well, and to your point on that, I mean, that's some ancient teaching right there, right? I mean, if you go back to Rome and the term bread and circus.
Oh, yeah.
Bread and circus, like we're living it today, right?
The NFL and beer? What? Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. That's the circus. Yeah. You know, Gladiator 2 came out, and in the midst of Gladiator 2, there was this transition from having an emperor to having a senate. Yes. And there was all these votes around that. And the king at the time, the emperor at the time, did not want to give up his role. So his thing was, let's have games, and we're going to have 60 days of games.
Right.
That's bread and circus. Yes. Give them food, give them drink. And we're living that now. Yeah. We just don't.
Daily.
It's daily. The circus is your iPhone. The circus is porn.
Your UFC, your NFL, they've even got, what's it called? College football on. So now you can watch football gambling every single day of it's crazy.
Right. I mean, sports is great, and it changed my life, changed your life, right? As a participant in sports.
Playing it, yes. Not just going in. Because at the end of the day, what I notice is that there are some people, there's a fat guy that's sitting in the audience going, oh, you should have done this. You should have hit the guy that way. What do you even know? Have you even been in the ring? Do you know how many people have not been punched in the face? That's the problem. Mike Tyson said that not enough men have been punched in the face, because they wouldn't be saying half the stuff that they did if they had been.
Oh, it's true. I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, and these are the little experiences, and that we all, like, these are the experiences help shape us, right? I mean, learning to, Coach Jermaine teaching boxing, right? And learning how to take a punch, learning how to throw a punch.
Right.
And, or maybe it's jujitsu and learning how to, work with somebody. You don't have to be the strongest guy in the room if you know jujitsu, because you can actually manipulate somebody with just different leverage points.
Look at Matt, Gordon Ryan and Thor. Thor's got, I think, a whole 100 pounds or 200 pounds on him, and he was able to nullify all. And Thor's the strongest man in the world. I don't know if you know, he's the Mountain from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
He's massive 6 foot guy, 6 foot something guy. Matt Ryan is maybe our height, 6 foot normal, and he was able to nullify all of the guy's power with jujitsu.
Right, little techniques, right? I mean, little techniques. I think too, like chi. Kind of talking about this, but I mean, I've developing your own energy, that life force within you.
Mm-hmm.
That the prana, the life force. I mean, it's referenced in different cultures throughout the centuries. But that energy that's within you is an energy that you can master your own energy. And then as you learn to master that energy, now you can actually transfer that energy. You can actually block somebody else's energy. I saw a really cool clip, and it was talking about how, like, kung fu masters, when they're getting ready to fight each other, you'll see them swirling their hands like this and like this before they actually hit, and that is a way of breaking down that other person's energy.
Right.
And so these are, again, tools that you have at your disposal.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you have to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. It doesn't mean that you have to throw up
500 pounds. Yeah. It's just about having a clear balance and being able to have those skills, like you said, tools in each. The best. There's a saying that goes, a jack of all trades and a master of none. But the full saying is not that. It's a jack of all trades and a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. And that's what all these sayings have been cut short or detracted so that they are utilized for specific purposes. Don't go and master one thing. But no, I would rather be a jack of all trades than a master of none. Same thing with the blood is thicker than water. Blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb.
I love that.
The family that you choose are more important and critical than the family that you were born to.
Yeah, that's so important. So important on our journey, right? Surrounding ourselves with other quality people to help 100%. Inspire us.
Well, my brother, I think that is going to be time for the day, man. We've gone a whole hour and 12 minutes into this. This has been a phenomenal podcast. Before we leave, 2 things that you would like our viewers to take away from, and then the last is, where can they find you on which social media platforms?
So social media platforms, I have wisdom1.com, WISDOM 1 WON.com. Also Empowered Human on Instagram, and that's 2 ways you can follow me on social media. I think too, as far as takeaways, first and foremost, no matter where you are in your life, no matter your age, no matter your upbringing, no matter the circumstances that you're in, you always have the ability to make choices to change things and to go in a new direction. And if you change 1% every day, that 1% is better than a 20% change one day and then going back to where you were the next day. So it's about giving yourself a little forgiveness. It's giving yourself the permission to be vulnerable, the permission to fail at some things, but also give yourself the courage, or allow yourself to find that courage to keep leaning into the darkness, leaning into your fear. And as you start to do that, you can begin to reset and break the old patterns, because they can be broken. Joe Dispenza, I mentioned his book earlier, but he's got a great book on becoming superhuman. It's all about rechanging your thought process, and people that have followed his strategies have helped heal themselves from Lyme's disease, from chronic back pains, from so many different ailments. Dis-ease. So, and the words that you speak upon yourself too, I think, I've always been very critical of myself because that was just part of the nature of coming up through the things that happened to me. And you have to learn to be a little kinder to yourself. And in the process of being kinder, it means being more aware of your thoughts and how you're speaking to yourself. And when you start to give yourself permission to heal, or you start to make the decisions around that, that's when I think you can move in the direction of 1% better every day. And then I think it's reaching out to, Excalibur coaching, to Wisdom One, looking at Men of War, going to Modern Mystery School, getting some healings done, start to create a game plan. I mean, we both got some strategies that we could share from our websites about how people can start to build foundational changes that can make big impacts in their lives. And I would just really encourage you to not give up on that hope, because we're here to have a joyful life. We're here to have love. We're here to have gratitude. We're here to feel fulfilled in terms of what we're doing with our time here. And we have to honor that because it's a gift to be here.
Right.
And I thank you for this really amazing conversation. I've enjoyed it a lot, and I'm glad to share this stuff and to hear your story too.
The wisdom. Yeah. So you've heard it here first. Number one, he says, focus on 1% better every single day. And 2, be kind to yourself. Right?
Absolutely.
You guys know where to find us. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You can find us on Excalibur Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as Spotify, which you're probably listening to right now. Have a fantastic day, guys.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.